Welcome back to English Listen Go. Have you ever asked a native speaker, "Are you okay?" And they answered, "I'm fine." So you believed them. Then, 5 minutes later, you realized something was clearly wrong. This can be confusing because "I'm fine" seems like one of the simplest expressions in English, but in real conversations, "I'm fine" doesn't always mean everything is fine. Sometimes it means exactly that. Sometimes it's simply a polite response. Sometimes it means "I don't need help." And sometimes it means, "I don't want to talk about this right now." Emma discovered this on a Thursday morning. When she arrived at the office, Rachel was already sitting at her desk. Normally, Rachel would look up and say something like, "Morning. How was your evening?" But today, she barely looked away from her computer. "Morning." Emma put her bag down. "Morning. Everything okay?" Rachel continued typing. "Yeah. I'm fine." "Okay." Emma sat down and opened her laptop. She didn't think much about it. Rachel had said she was fine. So, Emma assumed she was fine. About 20 minutes later, Marcus walked past Emma's desk. He lowered his voice. "Is Rachel okay?" Emma looked at him. "Yeah." "You sure?" "She told me." "She was fine." Marcus glanced toward Rachel. "She doesn't look fine." Emma looked over. Rachel was staring at her screen. Her shoulders were tense. She had barely spoken to anyone all morning. Emma whispered, "But she literally said I'm fine." Marcus smiled slightly. "That doesn't necessarily mean she's fine." Emma stared at him. "Please don't do this to me again." "Do what?" "Turn another basic English expression into an advanced listening lesson." Marcus laughed. "I didn't invent English." Later that morning, Emma went to the kitchen. Rachel was making tea. Emma decided to ask again. "Hey, are you sure you're okay?" Rachel paused. "Yeah, I'm fine." But this time, Emma listened differently. The answer was short. Rachel didn't smile. She didn't explain anything. And almost immediately, she looked down at her tea. Emma didn't know what was wrong, but she understood something she had missed earlier. Rachel wasn't necessarily saying, "Everything is wonderful." She might simply have been saying, "I don't want to discuss it." So Emma didn't push. "Okay. If you need anything, I'm here." Rachel finally looked at her. "Thanks." A few hours later, Rachel seemed more relaxed. At lunch, she sat beside Emma. "Sorry I was quiet this morning." "No problem. I got some bad news before work. I just didn't really want to talk about it yet." Emma nodded. "That's what I thought." Rachel smiled. "You thought that." The second time, not the first. They both laughed. Emma said, "When you said I'm fine, I originally thought you meant you were actually fine." Rachel took a sip of water. "Sometimes I would." "So how am I supposed to know?" Rachel smiled. "You don't always know." Emma sighed. That's becoming the answer to everything. Because communication isn't mathematics. Emma laughed. "Fair enough." Rachel explained that "I'm fine" could serve several different purposes. Imagine you ask me, "How are you?" And I say, "I'm fine, thanks." "How are you?" Emma nodded. Normal. Polite conversation. Exactly. I'm probably not giving you a detailed emotional report. I'm just responding naturally. Then Rachel continued. "Now imagine I'm carrying 2 bags, and you ask, 'Do you need some help?' And I say, 'No, I'm fine.' What does it mean?" Emma thought for a moment. "I don't need help." Right. Not, "I'm emotionally fine." Exactly. Rachel gave her another situation. Imagine I fall while walking, and you ask, "Are you okay?" I stand up and say, "Yeah, I'm fine." Emma answered, "You're reassuring me that you're not hurt." Good. And then there's what happened this morning. Emma nodded. "I don't want to talk about it." Possibly. Rachel emphasized the word possibly, because "I'm fine" doesn't automatically mean that either. Emma smiled. No secret dictionary. You're learning. That afternoon, Emma mentioned the conversation to Daniel. He gave her a simple rule. Don't ask what I'm fine means by itself. Ask what job it's doing in the conversation. Emma liked that. What job? Daniel counted the possibilities. It might answer a social greeting. It might reassure someone. It might reject an offer of help. It might close a personal conversation. Or it might genuinely describe how someone feels. Emma opened her notebook. So the same sentence can do completely different things. Exactly. Daniel gave her an example. Suppose I offer you coffee. Coffee. No thanks. I'm fine. Emma smiled. That means I don't need anything. Right. Now imagine I accidentally bump into you. Sorry. Are you okay? I'm fine. You're reassuring me. Exactly. Then Daniel lowered his voice. Now imagine you've obviously had a difficult morning, and I ask, do you want to talk about it? You look away and say, I'm fine. Emma immediately understood. That feels like a boundary. Good word. A boundary. Daniel explained that sometimes indirect language wasn't about hiding the truth. It was about controlling how much personal information someone wanted to share. That idea stayed with Emma. She had always assumed that if someone said I'm fine while feeling upset, they were being dishonest. But now she saw another possibility. Maybe the important message wasn't, I feel fine. Maybe the important message was, I don't want to discuss how I feel right now. Those were very different things. Later that day, Emma saw another example. Marcus was struggling with a large box of documents. Emma asked, Need help? Marcus adjusted the box in his arms. No, I'm fine. Emma watched him walk away. Rachel appeared beside her. What did that one mean? Emma smiled. He doesn't need help. Are you sure? They both watched Marcus nearly drop the box. Emma laughed. Okay, maybe he needs help, but he doesn't want it. Exactly. Emma realized something else. Even when people said, I'm fine to refuse help, their words didn't guarantee that they were actually managing perfectly. They were communicating a preference. Don't help me. I can handle this. Or at least, I'd rather try to handle this myself. Before leaving the office, Emma opened her notebook. She wrote, I'm fine. Then underneath, how are you? I'm fine. Thanks. Polite social response. Are you hurt? I'm fine. Reassurance. Need some help? No, I'm fine. Declining help. Do you want to talk about what happened? I'm fine. Possibly ending the conversation or setting a boundary. Then she drew a line under everything and wrote, same words, different function. Emma looked at the page for a moment. For years, she had tried to understand English by translating sentences, but translation could only tell her what the words were capable of meaning. It couldn't always tell her what a person was doing with those words in a specific moment. That required listening to more. The question that came before, the tone of the answer, the person's behavior, and what happened next. As Emma closed her notebook, she realized that I'm fine wasn't confusing because native speakers were trying to make English difficult. It was confusing because human beings often communicate more than information. Sometimes they reassure. Sometimes they protect their privacy. Sometimes they politely refuse. Sometimes they close a subject without directly saying, I don't want to talk about this. And sometimes, of course, they're simply fine. The advanced listener learns to hear the difference. The following day, Emma began noticing, I'm fine in conversations that had nothing to do with emotions. She was standing near the elevator when an older man dropped a folder, several papers scattered across the floor. Emma immediately bent down. Let me help you. The man smiled. I'm fine. Thank you. But Emma was already holding two of the papers. He laughed. Okay, maybe I'm not completely fine. Emma smiled and handed them back. As she walked away, she thought about the expression. The man hadn't been telling her about his emotional state. He had simply been saying, You don't need to help me. Later that morning, Rachel offered Daniel some cake. Want a piece? I'm fine, thanks. Emma looked up from her computer. Another one. Daniel turned toward her. Another what? Another I'm fine. Rachel laughed. She's collecting them now. Daniel smiled. What did mine mean? Emma answered. No thank you. I don't want any cake. Exactly. Emma was beginning to realize how often English speakers use the expression to decline something without using the word no. Would you like another drink? I'm fine. Thanks. Do you need a ride? No, I'm fine. Want me to carry that? I'm fine. The expression often communicated, thank you, but I don't need what you're offering. That afternoon, however, Emma encountered a more difficult situation. She and Rachel were preparing documents when Marcus entered the room. He looked at Rachel. Hey, are we okay? Rachel stopped working. We're fine. Marcus stood there for a moment. Okay. Then he left. Emma looked at Rachel. That didn't sound like the I'm fine we've been talking about. Rachel laughed quietly. Good. What did it mean? Rachel thought for a moment. Marcus and I disagreed about something yesterday. So, when you said we're fine, I meant I don't want to continue the disagreement. But are you actually fine with him? Rachel smiled. Mostly. Mostly. See, language is messy. Emma laughed. She had heard something important in Rachel's answer. We're fine didn't necessarily mean there is absolutely no tension between us. It could mean I'm willing to move forward. That was a subtle difference. Sometimes the purpose of a sentence wasn't to describe reality perfectly, it was to manage the relationship. Later, Emma asked Daniel about this. He nodded. A lot of everyday language works that way. How? We don't always speak like reporters describing facts. Sometimes we're trying to reassure someone, end a disagreement, protect someone's feelings, or signal that we want to move on. Emma thought about Rachel saying, we're fine. The sentence had communicated more than information. It had helped close the conflict. Daniel continued, that's why tone matters so much. He gave her two versions. We're fine. His voice was relaxed and friendly. Then we're fine. This time his voice was flat and controlled. Emma immediately felt the difference. Same words. Same grammar. Different relationship between the speakers. Exactly. That evening, Emma met her friend Sophie for dinner. Sophie arrived almost 20 minutes late. Sorry. The train stopped for ages. Emma smiled. It's fine. Sophie sat down. Are you sure? Yeah. It's fine. Emma realized that fine had changed again. Now, it wasn't about Emma's emotional condition. It meant something closer to, don't worry about it. I accept what happened. The next morning, Emma told Rachel, apparently my entire life is full of fine. Rachel laughed. Welcome to English. Emma opened her notebook. So we have, I'm fine. We're fine. It's fine. Rachel nodded. And they can all do different things. Emma wrote, I'm fine. I don't need help. I don't want anything. I'm okay. I don't want to talk about it. Then we're fine. There's no serious problem between us. Let's move on. And it's fine. Don't worry. I accept the situation. It's not a big problem. Emma looked at the page. How does anyone learn this language? Rachel smiled. By hearing it in situations, not just memorizing definitions. That sentence stayed with Emma. For a long time, she had studied English as if every expression were an object she could collect. Learn the phrase. Learn the translation. Remember the meaning. Move to the next phrase. But natural communication didn't work that neatly. Expressions changed according to the situation. And sometimes, the most common words carried the most subtle meanings. That afternoon, Emma made a mistake in a report. She noticed it shortly after sending the document to Daniel. She hurried to his desk. I'm really sorry. I just noticed there's an incorrect number on page 4. Daniel opened the document. This one. Yes, I'll fix it immediately. Daniel looked at her. It's fine. We haven't sent it to the client yet. Emma paused. This time, she didn't analyze the sentence word by word. She simply understood it. Daniel wasn't saying the mistake was good. He wasn't saying mistakes didn't matter. He was reassuring her. The problem was manageable. She didn't need to panic. Emma smiled. Okay, I'll correct it. Later, she realized something had changed. She had understood the social function of "it's fine" automatically. No translation. No mental checklist. No hidden dictionary. Just understanding. Near the end of the week, Emma and Rachel walked out of the office together. Rachel asked, "Do you think you're getting better at understanding fine?" Emma smiled. "I think I'm getting better at not trying to give it one meaning. That's probably more important." Emma nodded. If someone says I'm fine, I shouldn't immediately assume they're secretly upset. Right. But I also shouldn't assume they're giving me a completely accurate description of their emotional state. Exactly. I listen to the situation. Yes. And if I'm worried about someone, Rachel thought for a moment, you can give them space without ignoring them. For example, something like, "Okay, I'm here if you want to talk." Emma smiled. "That's what I said to you." And it was perfect. On the train home, Emma opened her notebook one last time. She wrote, "Sometimes, understanding someone means accepting what they choose not to say." She looked at the sentence for a moment. That might have been the most important lesson of all. Advanced listening wasn't about becoming suspicious. It wasn't about assuming that every simple sentence contained a secret message. And it certainly wasn't about trying to read people's minds. It was about becoming more sensitive to what language was doing in a conversation. When someone said, "I'm fine," they might genuinely feel fine. They might be reassuring you. They might be declining your help. They might be politely closing a personal subject. And sometimes, you wouldn't know exactly which one they meant. That was okay. Good communication didn't require perfect interpretation. Sometimes it required respecting the message you had actually been given. Emma closed her notebook and looked out the window. She thought about all the expressions she had been learning to hear differently. Maybe. Interesting. I guess. I'm fine. None of them were difficult words. But each one could reveal something important about uncertainty, politeness, relationships, boundaries, and intention. And that was one of the biggest differences between understanding English in a textbook and understanding English in real life. In a textbook, you learn what sentences mean. In real conversations, you also learn what people are trying to accomplish by saying them. So, the next time someone tells you, "I'm fine," don't automatically translate it into, "everything is perfect." But don't automatically assume the opposite either. Listen to the tone. Notice the situation. Think about the question that came before it, and pay attention to what happens next. Because sometimes "I'm fine" means, "I'm okay." Sometimes it means, "No thanks." Sometimes it means, "Don't worry about me." And sometimes it quietly means, "I don't want to talk about this right now." Learning to hear those differences is part of learning to understand English as it is actually spoken. Thanks for listening to English Listen Go. I hope today's story helps you hear "I'm fine" differently the next time it appears in a real conversation. Keep listening, keep noticing the small details, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, and goodbye for now.